NBA Commissioner Adam Silver has announced that going into the next season, 2 new teams, 2 new franchises will be added. One in the West, one in the East. And in the Western Conference, the team that is coming back are the Seattle Sonics. Yes, Seattle is once again getting their team back. They will not get their records back. All of those will stay in Oklahoma City because this right here is a brand new team, a brand new franchise starting from scratch. Here's their logo, same as the old one, colors the exact same. They're going back to the basics, folks. And they will also be playing in Climate Pledge Arena back in Seattle. Here's their courts. We got their Sonics.com, Sonics Seattle, their midcourt logo, the Climate Pledge logo. This is their new arena. And while I can't show their uniform in the edit uniform section because it just is not loading for some reason, they're going to be rocking their throwback unis to what they were wearing before they moved. Same as usual. They're pretty much the exact same team that they were. And yeah, so they got their classic away, their classic home. They also have a couple more options that we can use throughout this entire series. So no shortage of options here in terms of combinations. And I can also add a third jersey if I want to for them as well. So definitely some options here for Seattle. But they're back. But then across to the other conference, the team that will be joining the Eastern Conference in the NBA is the Virginia Beach Neptunes. Welcome, everybody, to your new franchise team for NBA 2K24. This is the expansion team that we're going to rock with. Main colors, we only have 3, but we really have 4 main colors, but these are the primary 3. This is our main logo. I'm going to show the actual main logo right now to cover this one up, because right now we have only the center court logo that we can actually use because 2K is taking forever to upload all of the custom pictures that I've made for the franchise. I at least have a couple of them, and those are the ones that I mainly need. So right now the center court logo is our logo, but the real one has some text in it saying Virginia Beach Neptunes basketball, and that's what you're seeing on your screen right now. And these are our uniforms. Here is your home one. Yes, it looks kind of similar to the Pelicans, but I just checked. They're not even close to being the same. Some teams just have similar colors. That's all it is. But this is our new text logo. Has the N right there with the trident. You can see it right here built into it. It's got the outline of the kind of beige color. And then we have the center court logo on the waistline. We've got the sponsor Publix. You got the Nike logos on here, the NBA logo. We got the side stripes. We've got the last name on the back with the logo above it. And yeah, I'm very excited to see these in action because I think I did a pretty good job of giving us a really nice starting point for these uniforms. But that's your home uniform. Here is the away uniform, incorporating less, so pretty much none of the beige except inside of the logo. And we're going to go with more light blue on here because I do like that light blue color. We have the Virginia Beach text on the front of the jersey. We have the 11, which is just the number on the front and back with the sort of light blue drop shadow, white Nike logo, side stripes, NBA logos, still sponsored by Publix. I think these look really good too. And then we have the alternate uniform, which might be my favorite. I do like the powder baby bluish kind of a color. And like some people don't like this uniform design just because of the color scheme, but this is what we're going to rock with. It's going to be the Neptunes logo from the home uniform, but just in white with a smaller blue outline, then a smaller white outline around it. We got the white Nike logos, a different sponsor on this uniform, NBA logo on the shorts and the back of the jersey. The color's a solid white, well, actually, the colors on here aren't exactly just solid white. It's kind of a slight off-white because we do have one color with us that's sort of like a steel white. So that's kind of what you're seeing here. It's not exactly dead white, but it's a kind of a steelish white. And those are our 3 uniforms. And I do change these every couple of seasons, so they're not going to be staying the exact same throughout the course of this of the series, but they will change from every couple of seasons to the next, arc in the franchise. But this is our starting point, and I think we're in a really good place. And we will be playing home games in Atlantic Arena, folks. I wanted to name it after kind of a general, area that we're in, which is right by the Atlantic Ocean. And the logo, I just kind of made it myself, so nothing special there. But Atlantic Arena, that is the home stadium, the home court for your Neptunes. And we got the @Neptunes NBA right there in the court. We've got Virginia Beach on one end, Neptunes in all caps on the other. We've got that center court logo that I was talking about. That's currently our main logo until the other one gets uploaded. And we've got that nice little wave that's on, I believe, the away and the alternate uniforms on the waistband. But we have that same logo on the court as well for kind of a secondary logo for that. Then our hashtag is going to be hashtag Ride the Wave. So that's all I could come up with there, but then it kind of matches the vibe of the team. And yeah, this is where you're going to be seeing all of our home games taking place. And I will probably, if we ever play home games with the alternate uniform, I'll probably make a new court that will just have, instead of the dark blue, it'll just be light blue instead to match that, because teams do that in real life, and we're going to be doing that because we are also a team in the NBA as well. So that is your home court, your home arena, Atlantic Arena. And now we can move forward into breaking down this roster. So obviously, I decided not to choose Bradley Beal with the first pick in the expansion draft, which will definitely rub some folks the wrong way. But I think most people would agree that his contract for his output is very outrageous. And we're probably going to have to come to a point at some time this series where we're going to have to give out a deal like that to somebody of his caliber. But I don't want that to be right now, because I want us to be able to actually draft like a franchise player. That's what I prefer, is kind of drafting the first couple of years, not making too many big free agent splashes, and trying to build within first and then tacking on free agent pieces later on down the line as the franchise players that you drafted improve. And that's kind of where I lean on how to start all of these kinds of franchise series, and that's how it's going to go here as well. So we're not going to make any huge free agent moves unless there's a complete no-brainer, but that would those are hard to come by. And I don't want to have Bradley Beal on this team because his contract is about $50 million. And I guess there's a reason why Phoenix chose to let him get drafted instead. And I also just chose not to get too many horrible contracts for our team, because I want to start off in a pretty good place. And I think having a guy like Jalen Duren first overall in that expansion draft, he's a really good starting place for kind of a franchise center. He might not ever grow into like a great center or anything, but he can definitely be a serviceable guy to have out there for years and years, which is kind of the thought process behind this pick. But we also have Bruce Brown, who's just a gritty, tough guy. We saw this in real life in the finals with, or not the finals. I mean, he did show some grit there, but especially against the Lakers, who was pretty good in the Western Conference Finals in real life last season. So he's a pretty good guy to bring in. $22 million is a lot of money for a guy like him. He only has 2 badges, but I think that he can really give us something to kind of start with there. And then we're probably going to have KCP run point, or we'll figure something else out. But I don't want Bruce Brown running point, and I think that KCP is much more a better fit for that. But we could just have Brown play small forward, KCP play shooting guard, and then have Micic start at point guard. But you got a lot of different roster options here with how you want to get your starter set up. So definitely a lot of discussion to be had, and probably a lot of lineup changes upcoming during the season. But we do have one of the worst rosters in the entire league, which is to be expected in an expansion draft as the team making those kinds of picks. But I do like that because that will give us probably a good starting place in terms of where we can draft players at. But we definitely are probably going to project to be a bottom 5 team this season. And as we already talked about, that the Sonics did take Bradley Beal once we decided to pass up on him. They also took veteran Spencer Dinwiddie, but I just wanted to avoid getting like aging veterans that have huge contracts, which they weren't willing to do because they got Beal, Dinwiddie, and they also got Gordon Hayward, who's making almost $32 million, which is way too much for him. But they have a pretty decent roster, all things considered. They're probably going to be a play-in / low-seeded playoff team, I would have to imagine, over in the West. But that's going to be pretty much relying on Beal and Dinwiddie and Nurkic staying healthy, and Hayward as well. I think all 4 of those guys tend to have issues staying healthy. And if any of those guys go down, they are not a deep team at all. So they're going to have some issues if those guys can't stay on the court. But we go into our first year, and we're going to open it on the road against OKC a couple of days after opening night. So our opening night comes on, I believe, the last night for all the other teams to get their last opening games in. So we aren't on the docket for any national TV games for quite some time. In fact, we might not be until the year actually kicks off so they can tell how good or terrible we are. But we open against OKC, Western Conference team. Then we go on a 4-game homestand against the Bucks, Hornets, Rockets, and Sonics. So kind of a mixed bag of teams here. A couple of good ones, a couple of teams that are probably going to project towards where we are. But we'll see how it goes. In terms of staff, we currently have only 9 of 17 spots filled out. And I'm going to fill those up right now. We do have head coach Milan Mack as our head coach. He's got pretty good charisma, analytics, legwork. But what I look for in coaching is offensive and defensive coaching, basketball IQ, and organizing, because organizing is how head coaches can get the rest of their coaching staff involved and they can actually be utilized to the best of their ability. And he only has half a star for organizing, but I think my thought process here is that we're stepping in sort of as the GM of the team, not necessarily the owner, but kind of the GM. We are kind of the owner as well. But we're going to step in, not as the owner, but as the, governor, GM of this team. And because of that, I will make all of the staffing decisions. But to start off, I'm going to let Milan Mack probably write out his whole contract unless we are absolutely terrible, like worse than we should be in the first 3 years. Then I'll probably fire him. But if we aren't as terrible as we are supposed to be, or we're just not worse than we're supposed to be, then I think we'll let him write down his 4-year deal and then probably bring on somebody new after that if we don't like where the team's going. But we also have Michael Odom as the assistant head coach, and we have one staff member, and that is Barry James as the guard guru. But what I'm going to focus on for the rest of this season is the scouting. And so the first thing I am going to do is fire our head scout and just completely revamp the entire department here, because I'm trying to spend all of our money here on our budget on the scouting so that we can get these prospects looked at. We can get a pretty good idea of who's good, who's not, and then we can spend most of this first year probably going through prospects and looking at guys that we want to probably just consider taking, because that's how we're going to build this team, is through the draft. Alright, so I finished filling out the staff, or at least the scouting department, and we've got a full department with 4 years or 4-year contracts for every single person, including our head scout, Jeremy Young. So, gonna look to this group of guys to get us all the info we need on the right prospects to be drafting in this upcoming draft and the drafts to come. As for our system with Mac, I think I'm gonna rock with the balanced approach. I usually use balanced just because the other ones just have way too many positives and negatives, and then I can't even really tell a difference in games. So I just rock with balanced usually, and that allows us to kind of have free reign over who we bring in instead of trying to get guys that only fit our system. But one thing about that is that I think this time around, for those who have seen my previous series, I do want to go with a more offensive heavy approach. I've gone a lot of defensive heavy stuff these last two years, and I think I want to do something different here. And so not only do I want to up the run plays, because you probably should always have this above 50 at the very least, otherwise your team's not going to score that well. We're going to keep our bench depth at 10. We're going to keep everything else as it is, the playbook as well, but I'll probably just make this some random. I'll just make it the Hawks playbook and just leave it there and add new plays as I see fit. But for the offensive focus, I don't really know what I want to do here. I think I'll start off with pick and roll offense just because we're a bad team and going through that might, free up some guys for open looks. But I want to do just completely firing off shots. I want to shoot at will. I want to limit transition, and I really don't have a defensive preference. I don't want to play a physical brand necessarily. I'll just stay neutral really. But what I'm saying here is that I want to run in transition, get out fast, score off of turnovers, score off misses, and I also want to limit transition as well. So rebounding is not going to be as big of a focus as it has been in series past. But we're going to start off with this and see how fun it is, because I want our team at the very least, even if we're bad, to be at least a fun team to watch, be a fast-paced team, be high octane. So that's kind of the goal there. And for those who don't know, how I operate these series is because we're operating as the governor and GM of the roster, we're not going to be focusing on actually playing these games. And what I mean by that is that we will watch them like we're doing right now in practice here, except we're going to be from more of a broadcast angle, which I can't use in practice here, but we're going to have a broadcast angle, and we're going to be watching this team because we aren't the players. We are not any of these people. We are the head of the entire franchise. And so we're going to watch all these games play out. Not every single game. We're going to sim a lot. But we're going to be watching at least one game per episode. And usually to the end of the entire thing. Probably the entire 48 minutes of it. But yeah, we're going to operate as the GM. Watch these games play out from a broadcast perspective. I'll provide my own live commentary for each play. Everything that happens will be coming out of my mouth. And so that's how I kind of operate. We're going to work through the draft, work through free agent signings, and just build a team and just see what happens. That's kind of how these series go. We'll probably spend the first 4 to 5 episodes going over the first season, going over prospects, and then by episode 6, we're probably going to get into our first draft and try and do our best to hit on that. But what you're seeing right now is who the CPU kind of has as our starting 5, and then who the CPU has as the other 5 going head-to-head here. So you're seeing that. So you got the ballers and the ringers. And yeah, just a fun little look in on how it's going to go. It won't be from this angle, obviously. The camera angles are different in-game than right now. But we'll get into opening night against Oklahoma City on the road next episode for sure. We will watch that entire contest and see how it goes. We'll get the full minutes for the starters, and we'll see how the chosen backups do. But I'm excited for this franchise. I think it'll be my most exciting one, my most realistic one. I do try to keep these really realistic. I don't really make massive trades unless they make sense for both teams, and as long as they're not me just trying to trade it into the top 5 of the draft just to do it just because, oh my god, that guy's really good, I want that guy, and I'll do whatever it takes to get him. That's not really how we're going to operate. Like, unless that trade truthfully does make sense for both teams, for every single asset being traded for, and every asset being given up, then I'm probably not going to be doing the trade. I will be using the trade finder a good amount during the year, especially at the trade deadline, just to see what teams want from us and, what certain guys are worth. But I don't foresee us making too many huge trades, again, unless it makes sense for both teams. I think we'll stick in practice here for a little while longer until there's about probably 20 points scored by whoever gets there first. So first to 20 here in the scrimmage will win, and then we'll probably end the episode. But I will, after that, put up all my sliders and settings for the franchise so that you can see kind of how I operate things, how I do it, and I'm using pretty much the same settings from where I left off from my 2K23 series, and I've done some testing between launch and today, and they seem to be working pretty well for both simming and watching, so these should give you a good balance where the stats kind of match both ways, and that's kind of what I want, because I never want what we're watching to not match what we're simming. And so what I found is that these sliders seem to kind of balance it out both really well. That not only gives it a good balance between sim stats and watching stats, but also stats across the entire league in terms of, how many points is a team averaging during the season or during a game, how much are they allowing, how many threes are they making or taking, what's their percentages, and they all seem to be relatively matching. So they also match to real life ones as well from the most recent couple of seasons. So that's kind of what the goal of those is to get those accurate to real life and to both simming and watching. So I'll definitely share all those numbers and settings at the end of this video. The blue team has had the ball for quite some time. I'm not sure which team is the ballers or ringers, but we'll find out once somebody makes a shot. Bruce Brown attacks again, and his shot's not going to drop this time, but finally the ball goes the other way. Osman, low block against Brown. Backing him down. He's stalled in his tracks. He'll go up, and he's got it. And so white team is the baller. So the ballers are in white. The ringers are in blue. And we got a tie game at 15 apiece. Robinson left wide open for three. That one's going to drop. And the ringers are one bucket away from ending this opening year scrimmage. Osman's jumper not going to drop. That's Isaiah Roby coming down with it. There's a couple of guys that should be playing but aren't right now. It's kind of how the CPU works. I can't actually change the teams in this scrimmage, so I'm kind of at the will of the head coach, Milan Mack, and what he wants. As Robinson can't cash in. Same spot as last time, but just rimmed out. And now Powell gets down low. Nice feed there from KCP, and it's back to a 1-point game, but the ballers actually are still, they are only one shot away as well, so a 3 for the ballers wins it, but the ringers have the ball, and any bucket for them will end it as well. As Robinson ends it right here, 21-17, your final score. The blue team takes it. And now we can jump into the game plan and see what I want us to start off our rotation with. Alright, so here's the game plan going into opening night against the OKC Thunder. Here's what I've drawn up for us to start off this franchise. We're going to rock with KCP getting 28 minutes a game, Bruce Brown at 27 at shooting guard. We'll play Robinson as a forward getting 27. We'll have Gallinari getting 27 at power forward and Jalen Duren at 29 minutes a game. He will be getting the most of everybody, but it's going to be a lot of minutes spread around just because we don't really know who's worth keeping around, and giving all these guys a bunch of minutes will surely help in trying to determine who we think could be the veterans to join who our draft picks are going into the next couple of years. So that's your starting 5. Then off the bench, we're going to have Ricky Rubio getting about 27, pretty much starter level minutes for him, with Chetty Osman getting 20 plus, Micic getting 20 plus off the bench, and also Dwight Powell and Cody Zeller getting 10 plus off the bench as well. Then we have options. We've got Joe Ingles, we've got Patty Mills, Isaiah Roby, Sam Hauser. So definitely a lot of room to work with here. But our starting point is this. And so, next time out, here is your matchup. The OKC Thunder with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Josh Giddey, Lou Dort, Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren, a very young, very good team with just a complete superstar in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. That's who we face to open this franchise. We're going on the road, and we'll have opening night coming your way shortly, folks. I'll see you guys next time. Please stay tuned for episode 2. I will see you guys there. So peace out, take care, and go Neptunes. And for those who do want to know what my sliders and settings are, let's go through them real quick. Thanks for sticking around in case you are one of those people. But quarter length 12 minutes, sim quarter length 12. I keep normalized play to sim minutes on just in case we jump in for part of a game and then jump out, and then I don't want the stats to be ruined there for anything. So the stats will stay the same as long as you sim to the end, but for minutes, those have been screwed up in the year and in years past. But it won't be an issue as long as we know what to do. But I did not have this issue last time, so no worries there. In terms of automation for the off season, I don't have any of this on. I do it all myself, so If you're one of those people who doesn't want anything to go wrong, I recommend that you do the same as me. For features, I did have it on 10 protected players. Even though Bill was still there, he was there when I did a test on 8 and 9 protections. So I did increase it by 2, which did definitely not help me out. But Bill was still there. So I would recommend having that on 10, because otherwise there's going to be a lot more players available that you would not otherwise expect to be there in the expansion draft. Which I'm not even sure that Jalen Duren should be there either, but he was, so I took him. But anyways, I do have staff abilities, progressive fatigue, team chemistry, and rule changes all on. Everything else is off, and then I have draft class quality up to 59 as of right now, because usually you get a lot of mid players and only a couple guys that are really going to have a good potential. This helps you give a few more mid players and a couple more guys that will be in the high potential range to replace those aging veterans once they leave. And I lowered career-ending injury frequency down to 25. I think the default is 50, so I definitely recommend that you put this down to 25. That will definitely help you out and keep those on as well. And for difficulty, this is what you definitely want to change for simming, because this will definitely help with that. So keep simming at 50, but we do want to rock with 80 trade negotiation difficulty, so that you're not just easily completely swooning by people. You're not just completely killing them in trades. Same thing for contracts. You never want those to be easy, because players are going to want money, and it's a challenge to keep them around if they do. And so that's a very important part of being a GM. So that goes hand in hand with upping CU re-signing aggressiveness to help them out with re-signing their own free agents. We got morale difficulty up to 60. Morale effects and chemistry effects, you want both to be at 100, because those will hugely affect not only how your team does, but also if those guys want to re-sign, because not every player is going to want to re-sign with you. That's just how it is. Unless you're the perfect GM on the perfect team in the perfect location, not every player is going to want to come back, and that's how it should be. So I definitely want to put those up to 100. So if a player's mad, he's probably not going to want to come back. So you want to keep players happy. Chemistry difficulty up to 84. CPU and user injuries up to 55, but then those effects for those down to 40 each. And that is the difficulty section. And for simulation, I have really changed a couple of things here. I left the fatigue section on default, but I lowered team pace down to 32 from 50. Team fast break stays at the default setting, but we're also going to lower possessions per game to 34, shots to 43. We're going to up blocks to 65. We're going to lower turnovers to 20 and fouls to 25 and keep injuries at 50. And for shot types, you want to increase layups to 54, shot close to 52, and you want to lower shot 3 to 45. And then for percentages, you want to have dunk percentage a bit lower, layups a bit higher at 56, close range up to 55, with mid-range and threes down to 42, and free throws up to 52. Then for shot distribution, nothing changed except for shots up to 52. Otherwise, everything else can be good at 50. And these are all starting points. You can definitely fiddle with these as your entire franchise moves along. That's what I'm going to be doing. So these aren't going to be the settings that we use the entire time, unless they are somehow perfect right out the gate, which they just won't be. So don't expect that. But for gameplay, one of the biggest things is to make sure that you have game speed on 56. This goes hand in hand with another slider that I'll show you guys for CPU settings, but make sure your game speed is up to 56. Otherwise, it's going to look really slow. It's going to look in slow motion. It's gonna go slower. Not going to be as many shots as you would like. All the scores are going to be lower. Players are just going to move like they're in quicksand. So do 56 game speed. I recommend using that for all 2Ks basically. It's been that same way for quite some time. Otherwise, I pretty much keep everything else on default, except I do have commentary volume off, as well as music, because I have my own music and I'm going to be doing my own commentary as well. And now we'll talk about coach settings, which can be found under coaching and then coach settings. And these are important, especially if you're doing CPU versus CPU, because some of this stuff can affect how much input your coach has versus what you have in terms of your rotation and things like that. So I definitely recommend doing this, and I'm going to start off with having the offense and defense both run on the adaptive coaching engine, which this does. It pretty much allows whoever your coach is to have their own kind of like CPU mind, and they'll make adjustments in-game and outside of the game that they see fit. This mostly affects in-game though, so during the game, if they want to switch things up, then they can. But automatically, the sub method is going to be on ACE, which stands for Adaptive Coaching Engine. But what I do instead is rotation, because I like to have kind of the full reign on who should be playing and when. And so I want to make sure that I get all the guys playing time that I want out there. So this will follow the game plan that I set up myself. And if you do the same thing that I did earlier in the video, then this will also apply to you. For play vision, this does not matter for CPU versus CPU. It won't show up if you just keep this on the default setting if you're doing CPU versus CPU. And you definitely want to change offense and defensive play calling to auto. It's going to be on manual to start off, but if you're doing CPU, you want this to be on auto, because then the team is going to run their own plays, which is what happens in real life, obviously. So you want your team to run some plays, and you want that to be the case. I would keep late game fouling on auto. Team communication, that's off run. Just pretty much depends if you want to see what your players are talking to each other and who's saying what. For freelance series order, I have not messed with this too much, but I'm pretty sure what this does is if you have it on static, which is the default, then what it does is it kind of just picks all the plays in like a row and keeps trying to repeat those same plays if they worked or if a guy got open. But I think this time around, I'm going to do dynamic, because I think what dynamic does versus static is that it pretty much allows the coach or whoever to kind of be more random with their play calling, but still you can still repeat those on success if those plays keep on working. But it allows you to kind of see a lot more plays than you usually would, which I think is kind of preferred, because you get a more larger variety of what kind of shots are being taken, who's taking them, and who's getting the assist or things like that. So I definitely want to try dynamic first and see how that goes. And then for teammate cut the basket, definitely keep this on auto, because that'll definitely help out with getting buckets and having guys cut baselines. So those are the coach settings for this series. So now we're going to move into the tuning sliders, and that starts with trades. So first we have trade logic. That's going to be on. We have everything on this first section except for trade overrides. I have on off because I did turn off CPU trade offers, and whatever CPU trades there are, I don't need their or they don't need my approval. So we're going to turn off trade approval and trade override, and we're going to turn CPU trades on. Going to turn CPU trade offers off, and we're going to put trade frequency up to 56, because teams just don't make big trades. And if you up this, it'll probably increase how many trades there are for role players, but not for big stars like there usually are in real life. So make it 56, and then once you get around the deadline for trades, which I think is the week or so before or after the All-Star break, that's when you'll want to put it up to about 100 for the last 2 days, which is what I'll be doing going forward. For player trade value, I have not changed any of this. This is all the same as it was, so nothing else in trades has been changed. But for progression, I put it up to 65, and I keep regression at 50, because for progression, most players are going to reach or are going to get to their peak by year 4 or 5. So within usually their rookie contract, if they're a first rounder, they're probably going to get to their peak by the end of that. And that's why that contract lasts that long pretty much. And most people say it's actually by year 3. Like year 3 is usually the year that guys show if they're going to have that leap or not. So that's why I increase that, because sometimes players take 6 years to get there in this game if you don't have it at 65. So players will get to their peak a bit faster. They won't regress as much though, which I think makes sense, because guys don't really lose their shooting touch just because they lose some of their physicality. So that's the kind of thought process there. I have not changed anything for the progression phase, so nothing changed for those. For contracts, I have not changed anything here. Everything is on default as well. And now lastly, we have user CPU sliders, and I don't change the user one for this because they finally added the free throw window for CPU, so we don't have to use this one anymore. It used to be where the user would only have the only free throw option, and that was what determined free throws for both the user and the CPU for both CPU teams when you watch like I do. But now they have it for CPU, so I don't mess with the user sliders. Those are whatever you want it to be, but I don't play the game, so those won't have an effect on anything that we do. But here are my settings, and I've done I've watched about 10 or so full games on these settings, and I've liked what I've seen for the most part. There's been high scoring games, low scoring games, there's been middle scoring games, and so we've got 65 inside shot success, 65 for close shot, mid-range shot, and then 69 for three-pointers, and 67 for layups. We got 35 shot coverage impact, 50 shot timing impact, and we up the free throw window size up to about 57. That gives you a good balance of the good players making what they should, and the bad players missing what they should as well. Dunk and traffic up to 55. Success up to 61 for dunk and traffic. Pass accuracy to 46, with alley-oops up to 50, which I think is the default. Contact shot success at 60. Ball security down by 1. Body up sense up to 70, and pass speed up to 52. Then on to our defensive settings, we've got driving shot contact up to 90. Inside shot contact onto 90. Then we lower layup defense strength on takeoff and release down to 47. And for jump shot, defense strength on gather and release, we go to 10 and 5 for those. We're going to have 75 help defense strength, 60 steal success, and for player attributes, we're going to have 44 acceleration and speed, which these go hand in hand with game speed. So whatever you up game speed to, if yours is different from mine, I recommend having that add up with speed to 100. So for example, we've got gameplay speed up to 56, and we're going to have speed at 44. So that will obviously add up to 100. And you want that to be the same for acceleration as well. So keep those at whatever level you can in comparison with your gameplay speed, and that will work out really well for your gameplay. As well as for vertical strength and stamina, leave those as their defaults. I think they're fine as they are. Although stamina could go up by a little bit, but I'm going to keep it as is for now. Durability can stay at 50 as well. We're going to up hustle to 51. Ball handling to 48. Hands to 72. Dunking ability to 55. And on-ball defense to 42. With stealing at 60. Blocking at 50. Offensive and defensive awareness both at 100. And offensive boards at 47. Defensive boards at 50. Offensive consistency up to 55. Defense at 50. Fatigue rate at 50. Lateral quickness at 44 as well. And then lastly, tendencies. We're going to have 39 take inside shots. 38 take close shots. 63 take mid-range shots. 81 take three-point shots. 38 post shots. 40 attack the basket. 40 look for post players. 40 throw alley-oops. 55 attempt dunks. 50 attempt putbacks. 70 for passing lanes. 62 for go for on-ball steals. 48 for contest shots. 42 for backdoor cuts. And then for fouls, I have found that there are not going to be as many fouls as you would like. It's almost impossible to get it to where it needs to be. So you pretty much got to put everything up to 100, except you should put reaching fouls to 80 and shooting fouls to 99. Otherwise, that's the best balance that you can possibly have with the sliders available to you. And lastly, movement. For max speed, you want the max rating for speed to be 100, because this kind of determines what the ceiling is for speed for a player. So for example, say that Ja Morant has 99 speed, which I think is the maximum possible thing. If you were to have this setting right here on 70, then his max speed would be 70, and it would be the same for all players unless they have lower than a 70. And the same thing goes for the minimum rating for speed and also acceleration. So you want your faster guys to be fast, and you want your slower guys to be slower. So I don't recommend keeping those on the default, and I would put those at maximum for the max rating and about 30 for the lowest rating for either of those two. And that will do it for CPU sliders. This only affects when you watch, and when this affects when you watch and any CPU teams that there are. If you're playing, this will affect the CPU team. So I recommend you using those for CPU versus CPU gameplay, and you'll probably have a pretty good outcome, and it'll be pretty much close to real life as you can get in this game. So those are the settings. Those are my sliders. That's the team. For those who stuck around for this part, thank you, and I hope that you guys have a good time with whatever team you end up choosing for your own franchise as well. But I hope you guys stay tuned for episode 2 and opening night, and I hope to catch you guys there. So, as I said earlier, please like, subscribe, comment your thoughts down below and your expectations for the team, and I'll see you guys on opening night next time around. See you guys there, and peace.